Today's podcast is for cat lovers or anyone who has or has ever had a cat. And it's for people whose neighbour has a cat or whose friend has a cat. Actually, anyone who wants to speak about cats and be communi-CAT-ive in English will find this episode useful. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with more than 50 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. So, Pussycat, how's it going?
What's new? What's new, Pussycat? That joke at the beginning was terrible. Communi-CAT-ive. Oh, dear. If you're a new listener, you're very welcome to the podcast. And we're going to talk about cats. Why, I hear you ask? Well, we got a lovely message from friend of the show, Mati from Cartagena.
Hi guys, this is Mati from Cartagena again. How are you? Long time without hearing from you. So I'm sending you my first voice message, but I have bad news. I'm sorry. But my cat Lupin has told me that you don't have any podcast related to cats. And she's a little bit upset with you because of that. So I was wondering if you could prepare a podcast with cat idioms to try to please her. But I don't know if it is going to be enough because she's very cantankerous. So let's going to try it. Of course, if you have any another idea or suggestion, I am all ears. So help me if you can. I'm feeling down. And I do appreciate you being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please help me? So, thanks a lot for everything and warm regards from here. Bye. Lupin, cariño. Say bye. Meow meow.
Well, the fact that we haven't spoken about cats is a catastrophe, isn't it, Reza? A catastrophe. And was it Lupin, Mati, the name of your cat? So please apologise on our behalf to Lupin and say that we're really sorry, but we are going to do an episode on cats today.
Yes, Matty, and thanks very much for your very, very lively message. That's one of the best messages we've ever had, I think, Craig. Don't you think?
It was very upbeat, very friendly, very open and very joyful. So well done, Matty.
And just for you, Matty, because I like your message so much, I will talk about cats, even though I'm allergic to them.
Are you?
Just for you, I'm going to talk about cats. I am. But for you, Matty, I will take a tablet and talk about them. No, obviously, I'm not going to get allergic talking about them. But honestly, Craig, I am allergic to cats.
I did not know that.
Yes, I do like them. They're quite nice, but I can't spend too much time around them. They start to make me sneeze and they make my nose run.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen while we're talking about cats. And Matthew, I loved the singing. That song was fantastic. Was it a song by Cat Stevens by any chance?
Oh, dear.
So, because you suggested this topic, we're going to talk about some vocabulary connected to cats and cat idioms. But before we do, if you'd like to improve your English, we want to tell you about ways you can study with us. Reza, how can people study English with you privately?
Well, if you're interested in a one-to-one lesson, which means that it can be tailored to your individual needs, to study or focus on exactly what you need, well, you could get in touch with me. You might need to prepare for a specific exam. You might need to specifically improve your reading. You might need to practice your listening. Whatever, we can tailor the course to your needs. Why not send me an email? It's belfastreza @gmail.com.
There's more than one way to skin a cat, and we'll explain that idiom a bit later. But it really means you don't need to study privately. You could have group conversation lessons, and you can do that with me. I organise small groups of lovely people, and together we have discussions, debates, role plays, and focus on speaking, listening, and communication skills. So if that interests you, get in touch with me. You can contact me by email. I'm Craig, Craig, @inglespodcast.com, and I will send you more information. Reza, let's talk about some cat vocabulary.
Well, let's start with the little baby cats. Now, Matti, I'm not sure how old Lupin is right now, but at some stage, she was a kitten. Kitten. A kitten is a baby cat. From the word kitten, we have a diminutive form. Yeah, so the kind of colloquial form, the form which is like a more informal version of it, which is kitty. And it's very typical, Matti. I wonder if you do this. You probably know already, but other listeners won't. When you want a cat to come over to you, in English, it's very typical to say, "Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty. Come over here, kitty, kitty." So Kitty, kitty, and usually we say it twice, kitty, kitty, is what you say to a cat. It's how you could address Lupin when you want her to come over. You can say, "Here, kitty, kitty."
And humans have skin, although animals like cats and dogs have fur. F-U-R. Be careful of the pronunciation. Fur. The same sound as in learn or nurse or burn, those kind of words. So a coat of hair for a cat is fur. However, on their face, they have whiskers. 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 I'm not sure, Reza, but I think cats use whiskers for balance. Is that right?
You're probably right, but I definitely know of one other use they have for whiskers. It's to measure the width of something as well.
Oh, when they're walking.
No, not necessarily when they're walking. Well, I guess whenever they're moving, they use their whiskers to know if they can fit through a space.
Interesting.
I'm not joking. I'm not making up. So if their whiskers can go through a space, their whole body can go through. So they use them. So if the whiskers brush against the side of a space, they know they can't get through it. And so they don't go.
Do you use your beard in the same way?
Yes, but I often get my head stuck because my beard is far, far, far smaller than my belly. So it doesn't work for me.
So fur and whiskers. Remember, you can see this vocabulary on the webpage. Go to inglespodcast.com/513 and there you'll see a list of these words. What noise do cats make?
Meow. Meow.
It has more than one spelling though, doesn't it? M-E-O-W is one spelling. And I think it's also M-I-A-O-U or M-I-A-O-W. So all of those spellings are acceptable, and that's the sound a cat makes.
And it can be a noun or a verb. So you can say, "I heard a meow." It was the cat. Or you could say, "The cat meowed." You could put it into the past simple. Just add ed. Or "The cat is meowing." You put it into an ing form. It can be a verb or a noun.
Speaking of sounds, another sound a cat can make is purr, P-U-R-R. The same vowel sound as fur, the coat, fur, and purr, P-U-R-R. That's another sound, and cats usually make it when they're very happy. If you're stroking a cat, it might start purring, and it's content. It's a sound of contentment.
Did you hear that cat purring?
That was Reza making the sound of a cat purring, but I will put a more authentic sound when I edit the podcast, in case you didn't quite get what Reza was doing to his microphone there.
So Craig there was using the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, for standard British English, which is spoken by some British people. But for me, you really, at some stage in your life, have to get a Scottish person to say this word to truly enjoy it. What was the cat doing there, Jimmy? It was purring. You've got to get a Scot to say the word purr.
They would roll the R's.
They roll the R's. So it actually sounds like what the cat does. They actually say purr.
Talking of Scottish people, what sound does a cat make when it's angry? So that would be a hiss, H-I-S-S, the same sound that a snake might make. A snake also hisses, and a cat hisses if they're angry. And also defensive as well. If they're feeling threatened, they might hiss at you.
Now, listeners, I guess you've noticed with my extremely poor sound effects that the words sound like what they're supposed to be. Meow sounds like what it is. Purr, if you exaggerate it. Purr, and hiss. English is really, really great for that. It's one of the best languages in the world for sounds which sound like the word, or vice versa, depending how you look at it. So meow sounds like what it is. Hiss sounds like what it is. So think, if you ever get lost in English and you can't remember, oh, what's that word for the sound? Think of the sound and you probably get it. So you might think, that thing cats do when they're angry, when they go, shh, 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 what's that? Well, you've almost said it. Hiss. Just think of the sound and you're not far off the word. You'll be very close to it.
We have fingernails at the end of our fingers. We have to cut our fingernails. Cats, on the other hand, have claws. C-L-A-W. Many animals have claws. Birds, bears, dogs all have claws. And a claw is a cat's sharp nail. And again, when they're fighting, if they're threatened, they will put out their claws.
A word which rhymes with claw, it sounds similar, is paw. And indeed, it's connected to the claw. Quite physically, quite literally. The paw is the foot, and the claw is connected to the paw. So a cat's foot is not called a foot, it's called a paw, and at the end of the paw, you've got the claw.
Did you hear the joke about the cat who walked into a saloon in the Wild Wild West and he was limping? He was only walking on 3 feet. What did he say to the barman?
I have no idea. What did he say?
I'm looking for the man who shot my paw. Why is that funny, Reza?
That's funny because in the way they speak, the way the cowboys speak in the cowboy films, they always talk about the maw and paw.
Mother and father.
Yeah, paw. So it's quite common that someone's looking for revenge because somebody shot my paw, shot their father. That's so funny. That's good. I like that joke. That's a good one.
Thank you. It's not often you do like my jokes. I'm pleased that one hit home. Reza, where do cats go to the toilet? At home, in the house.
Well, hopefully, Matty, in your house somewhere, you have a litter box, which is the place where cats go to the toilet. So the word litter on its own means rubbish. Yeah, litter on the street is rubbish. But a litter box is that place where cats go to leave, well, the things they don't want. I suppose they're rubbish in a way. Their feces, yes? So, and their pee as well, perhaps. So a litter box is a little box prepared with special material which absorbs the things that cats have to leave behind.
I don't have much experience with cats. I'm more of a dog person, but I was thinking while we were preparing this lesson if it's easier to train a cat than a dog. My feeling that it is. My feeling is that cats tend to go almost automatically to a litter box, whereas a dog, and I have trained a dog, it takes a while to get them used to going in a certain place in the house when they're puppies. That's a small dog, puppy. To train them to go to the toilet in a box, whereas cats kind of do it automatically, don't they?
Yes, but I have the feeling with cats, it's because they want to, not so much because you want them to.
Maybe they're cleaner.
Yeah, they're very much their own bosses. So they do it because they want to, whereas dogs do it because you order them to. I think that's the difference.
That makes sense. Now, there's a plant that I've never actually seen, although I have heard of it. It's called catnip, C-A-T-N-I-P, and apparently cats really love it. Have you seen catnip? Do you know what it looks like?
I can't remember what it looks like, but I believe it smells a bit like mint. And for some reason, cats are really attracted to it. There's also other plants. I can't remember what they are right now, but there's certain plants that the cats really dislike.
Cactus?
Oh, very good. Very good. Cactus. But I'm not sure that's true, but I bet they don't like cactus. Who does? Because you can get cut on them. But no, I think there are certain plants, herbs, which repel cats. They just don't like the smell of them. And so apparently people put certain herbs in their gardens to keep cats away. So it has the opposite effect of catnip. But I can't remember right now what those herbs are. If any listeners know, would you send us a message and tell us which herbs repel cats?
If you have a cat that puts out its claws and scratches things, that could destroy your furniture. To scratch is to use your nails. Humans can scratch their skin. If you're itching, if you have some part of your body that's annoying you, you can scratch it. And cats use their claws to scratch things. So it's a good idea to put a scratching post in your home so that the cat can scratch the post and not your sofa.
So a cat may scratch things with its claw, but whenever you touch the cat, then you stroke it. S-T-R-O-K-E is what you do. Yeah, you can stroke a dog. You can stroke any animal. Craig, when was the last time you stroked a pussy?
It's been a long time. Yeah, in fact, I can't remember the last time I stroked a pussy. Now, be careful with the word pussy because, first of all, it's a colloquial childish word for cat. So a child might say, "Oh, where's my pussy? I want to stroke my pussy." But it also happens to be a slang word for a lady's genitals. So be very careful how you use that. And Reza there was playing with words with a double entendre, double meaning. So there you can see where the two meanings of the word pussy are used for comic effect. So yeah, a pussy can be a woman's genitals, and it can also be a colloquial word for a cat.
So we've taught you individual words, basic vocabulary, but there are plenty of idioms about cats. So just to remind you, an idiom is when you use words, but not in their original real meaning. They have a metaphorical meaning. Craig, can you start us off with a really popular idiom that many people might know?
Yes, it is popular, and many students of English know and use this idiom, although, to be honest, I've never actually said it, and that's "it's raining cats and dogs." Have you ever used that idiom in conversation in English?
To be honest, I haven't. It's the sort of thing that foreigners love, but I'm not sure native speakers actually use it that much.
And I think it's from when there was a plague in Britain and the dogs and the cats were falling from the roofs. I read that explanation at one point. So it means it's raining very heavily. You can imagine these animals falling down from the roof. So it's raining cats and dogs. It's raining a lot.
Now, a burglar, B-U-R-G-L-A-R, is a person who steals things from your house or from a building. So you might think a cat burglar goes into your house and steals your cat. But no, don't worry, Matty, it's not true. To my knowledge, there are not people specialized in stealing cats. A cat burglar is a burglar who uses agility and stealth. Stealth means being very careful, being very quiet, very secretive, so nobody knows you're there. So these cat burglars use stealth and agility to break into buildings. So they're people who are really, really good at it. They're professionals. People that will steal something from your house and you won't even know they've been there until you look for the object and it's gone. That's the work of a cat burglar.
A copycat is someone who is imitating or copying the actions of someone else. And that's very common in school. You're at your desk, you're writing, and you see that your neighbor, the person sitting next to you, is looking at your paper and copying your answers to the test. So you'd say, hey, copycat, stop looking at my work. Do you remember at school where you used to put your hand up or your arm around what you're writing so the person next to you couldn't copy you?
Well, I used to do that, but more often, I used to strain my neck trying to see someone else's because I wanted to. I was the copycat because I didn't know anything.
You were the copycat. Reza, if someone called you a fat cat, would that mean that you were necessarily overweight?
No, and I would laugh at them because they're clearly talking about the wrong person. I am not a rich and powerful person, so I'm definitely not a fat cat. It's an idiom, a metaphorical way of saying someone who has a lot of power, control, money, a VIP, an important person is a fat cat.
It's very often used to refer to businessmen, isn't it? People who are successful at business, have a big, flash, expensive car.
Now, everybody knows that cats love to chase after mice. Mice is the plural of mouse. Yeah. So that game of cat and mouse has been going on since the beginning of time, I imagine. And very often the mouse seems to get away. Or there are so many mice that there'll always be another day for another chase. So a game of cat and mouse refers to the situation in which one side, the cat, is always pursuing the other, the mouse. It seems to never end. But there's no conclusion. The chase is forever. It's a game of cat and mouse.
For example, you could use that with politics. You could say that politicians often play a game of cat and mouse with the media. They feed them information and they play with them in this dynamic way. Now, if you remember my first flat, Reza, when I moved to Valencia in the beginning, it was quite small, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. In fact, I would say there was no room to swing a cat in that studio flat.
So don't worry, Matty, we're not going to be swinging any cats physically, but metaphorically, if you say there's no room to swing a cat, to pick it up by its tail and swing it around, that means metaphorically it's a very small, confined space. You'd walk into someone's apartment or flat and say, hey, it's really small, there's no room to swing a cat in here.
Now, Craig, before I went to the bathroom a few minutes ago, I saw there were 5 chocolate biscuits on the table. You said I could try one. You promised. I've come back and there are none left. Do you know where they are? You're not saying anything. You don't know where they are. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Craig doesn't seem to know anything. Cat got your tongue? I think Craig doesn't want to say anything because I think he knows where those biscuits are. He's eaten them already, even though he said he'd leave one for me. So he just refused to speak. The cat got his tongue. So when you say to someone, cat got your tongue, you're saying in an informal, idiomatic way, why aren't you talking? Haven't you got anything to say for yourself? Why be quiet? Very suspicious, in other words.
As a very common expression to say to children, for example, if they're very shy, they're not speaking, and you say, hello, how are you? And the child says nothing, very embarrassed. You can say, hey, what's the matter? Cat got your tongue? And I was reading on the internet that one explanation for this expression is from stories of witches whose cats would steal the tongues of their victims to prevent them from telling other people the bad things the witches were doing. So that's an interesting possible explanation for that idiom.
Craig, at the weekend, do you ever have a cat nap?
Not only at the weekend, my friend, I love cat naps after lunch. I often sit in my chair, listen to something really boring, maybe this podcast, and just sleep for 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. That's called a cat nap. So a short sleep, or we can say a doze, D-O-Z-E, a doze or a short sleep, just to charge up your batteries, to have a cat nap.
In other words, a little mini siesta, just like what cats do all the time. Cats love having those little naps.
Now, a cat on a hot tin roof. What's that, Reza?
That describes a person who's agitated. They're highly nervous. They're really fidgety. Fidgety means you can't stop moving. You're making little movements because you're nervous about something. Imagine if a cat was on a roof and that roof was really hot. Well, it would be burning its paws, so it would have to move around, right? So if you're like a cat on a hot tin roof, you just can't be still. You can't stop moving because you're nervous.
Imagine how fidgety and nervous and anxious a person is after taking cocaine. You could say that they're like a cat on a hot tin roof.
And if that person stayed out all night, taking drugs and alcohol, when they eventually arrived in the morning home and you were waiting, you might say, well, look what the cat dragged in. To drag is to pull something along the ground. So look what the cat dragged in it's a derogatory way, yeah. So you're being negative, you're accusing the person of doing something bad, or it could be in a playful way. Imagine like you said to your son, now don't go out. You're going to have your dinner in 5 minutes. And he goes out. And then he comes back 20 minutes later. And you say, oh, well, look what the cat dragged in. Like, where were you for the last 20 minutes? So it can be derogatory or it can be like playful, funny. And it's to say that somebody just doesn't look good. They should have been here and looking good, but they've turned up late or they've turned up looking bad. They're not making a good impression. Maybe they're not properly dressed for the occasion. They look like something, like a rat or a bird that a cat might drag home. Matty will know that cats sometimes bring home dead animals. They think it's like as a present, as a gift for their owner. So imagine you were that dead animal. You wouldn't look too good. So that's where we get the expression, look what the cat dragged in.
At the beginning of the podcast, I used the idiom, there's more than one way to skin a cat, when I was speaking about different ways of learning English, going to a private school, studying with Reza, etc. Well, that expression means there are many, many ways, alternative ways of doing something or achieving something. It doesn't sound like a very nice thing to skin a cat, to remove the skin from a cat. I'm sure cat lovers don't like that at all. I don't really like the image of that, but it is a popular idiom. And I tried to find the origin of it. One explanation is it was used for catfish in America, where you catch a catfish and you remove the skin before you cook it. I don't know. It wasn't very clear, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. If you hear that, that's not someone who's not a cat lover being nasty and horrible about cats. That just means there's more than one way to do something.
Now, Matti, I don't know if Lupin has had kittens or she might someday, but believe it or not, a person can have kittens. Don't worry, it's nothing to do with genetic engineering. No, it's simply an idiomatic expression. If a person has kittens, little cats, but it's metaphorical, we mean they're very, very upset, very worried about something. So imagine I say to you, oh, my son disappeared all night. He said he'd be home at 10 o'clock, but he didn't get home until 2 o'clock. Oof, I was having kittens waiting for him. I was really, really worried, really upset I was having kittens.
And it's sometimes used with the word nearly, isn't it? For example, my mum nearly had kittens when I told her I was buying a motorbike.
Do you know, Craig, the time that I could say I was closest to having kittens, the time when I was most frightened in my entire life, involves a cat. Bizarrely. It's kind of ironic.
It wasn't your first day teaching English?
No. No cats there.
What happened?
I don't think I've ever told you the story. This is honestly true, Matty. I've never been as scared before or since as by a cat. I was at home I was speaking on the phone to someone in France, actually. And I was young at the time, and my parents wouldn't have liked the idea of me being on the phone to France because they would think it costs a lot of money. So I was a bit worried that, I better make this phone call very quick because my parents will be back soon and they won't want me speaking to my friend in France.
Was it your French girlfriend?
It was actually, yeah. So I thought, let's make the phone call when my parents are. That's relevant. So I was already a bit nervous about that. And it was late at night and it was dark. And I was having this conversation and my then girlfriend asked me, "Are you alone?" And I said, "Yeah, it's just me." A second after, someone played or hit a key on the piano. My blood ran cold. I've never been as frightened in my entire life. So can you imagine? I'd waited specifically till my parents went out. I was alone thinking, I'll phone quick before they get back so they won't know I've been phoning France. And I've just been asked, "Are you alone?" I say yes. And then I hear someone hit the piano in my living room. Not the TV. The TV was off, a real piano. But it wasn't just any sound. First I heard a ding, but then I heard like a horror film. My blood went cold.
You must have been catatonic.
I thought my immediate feeling was, okay, a crazy psychopath has somehow got into my house, like they do in horror films, thinks it's funny to bang the piano and is coming to kill me, to cut me into pieces. Who else could it be? It was a cat.
On the piano.
A cat. We don't have a cat. So if we had had a cat, then I would have probably immediately thought the neighbour's cat somehow had got into our house and had chosen that moment just when I was asked, "Are you alone?" and a bit worried because I didn't want my parents to find me on the phone, to start walking across the piano. I've never been so frightened in all my life. I ran upstairs and the sound continued. I thought, oh my God, this person is playing with me. They're playing with my mind and then they're going to come and cut me into pieces. So eventually I got a cricket bat. There's always a cricket bat in our house. We're keen on cricket. And I went downstairs thinking, I've got to do something. I've got to get out before they kill me. And I turned on the light and was ready to rush and saw the cat on the keyboard of the piano. Wow. Never have I been so frightened.
I bet you thought it was a cat burglar.
I can truly say I nearly had kittens because of a cat.
Incredible story.
So frightening.
So that really put the cat among the pigeons. If you put a cat among the pigeons, pigeon is a bird. If you've been to Trafalgar Square in London, you will have seen many, many pigeons. A grey bird that's quite common in cities. And that expression, to put a cat among the pigeons, is a way of saying that someone has created an upset or a disturbance. For example, Manchester United and Manchester City, two football teams that do not like each other. If you put supporters and fans of those two teams together in the same place, you're putting the cat among the pigeons.
Craig, have you ever felt as weak as a kitten?
When I was sick, yeah. For example, when I got the flu or if I had a virus, my body felt very weak. I felt as weak as a kitten. I couldn't move from the bed and I could only have some soup. So, yeah. What about you?
I've never felt that weak. No, I felt bad before, but not as weak as a kitten. So that's an idiom to mean you feel really, really fragile. Terrible. Craig, I want to know your honest opinion about something. Though I've met a new friend, and to be honest, I really like her. She's really gorgeous. She's really attractive. In fact, she's a top model. And I had a little chat with her, and I thought she might be interested in me. Should I call her? Do you think she might be interested in me?
What, to go out with you on a date, for example?
Yeah.
Would you like me to be honest?
Yes.
I don't think you have a cat in hell's chance.
Oh, right.
To be brutally honest, to have a cat in hell's chance of doing something is to have no chance at all, to have absolutely no prospect of doing something. I personally prefer the idiom to have a snowball in hell's chance. the idea that a snowball would melt instantly in hell. But you can also use the idiom with cats, to have a cat or not to have a cat in hell's chance of doing something.
Oh, well, that's definitive then. There's no way I'm going to call her, because you know me. Already, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to asking a woman out.
And cats on the piano. I bet you're a scaredy cat in that situation.
I certainly was. So you probably know the word scared, which is a synonym for frightened. A scaredy, S-C-A-R-E-D-Y. So it's like a corrupted form of the word scared. A scaredy cat is a term used playfully. It's a joking term to say that someone is a coward. They're not brave. So I am a coward when it comes to asking women out, because I know in advance they're probably going to say no. I'm a scaredy cat.
So you've shared something on the podcast that I'm going to ask you about when we finish recording, this new friend you have that you're very attracted to. Was that a secret before? Would you say that now you've said this publicly that the cat is out of the bag?
Well, yes, the secret is not a secret anymore, but, I'm not going to get too excited about the cat being out of the bag, because, it's not going to go anywhere. So the fact that the cat's out of the bag doesn't bother me. I'm sure the story will end very soon. But Craig, you would like to know what happens if I phone her, wouldn't you?
I would be very interested to know, but I don't know if you're going to tell me, because it might be a situation that would get me and you into trouble.
Well, Craig, curiosity killed the cat.
What does that mean?
That means that when somebody's curiosity could get them into trouble or in a bad situation. So I might not say. I might not tell you what happens. Yeah, I'm gonna let you just think about it.
So curiosity killed the cat is a useful expression if someone's asking you a lot of questions. We can say in English that they're being a bit nosy. If you're nosy, then you're too inquisitive. You're asking about too many things, maybe personal things. You can always say, hey, listen, curiosity killed the cat. You'd better not ask any more questions. But we want you to speak now. We don't want the cat to get your tongue, because we would love you to comment and practice some of the expressions we've shared with you today. Reza, how can people contact us and leave us a voice message?
Yes, record your voice. Go on. Don't be a scaredy cat. It's not gonna cause you any harm. Have a look at the link in the show notes. It's www.speakpipe.com/inglespodcast. And if you use that link, you will be able to leave an audio message of a maximum of 90 seconds. But Craig, if people want to write to us, how can they get hold of you?
You can reach me, Craig, Craig, @inglespodcast.com. That's my email address. And to contact Reza, write to Belfast Reza, that's Belfast the city, Reza, both together, @gmail.com.
And if you're a Spanish speaker and you want to study for free, why not visit the Mansión Inglés website? And also there, you can find paid ebooks and audios for self-study. Why not check out the online store? There's a link in the show notes to store.mansioningles.net.
And before we go today, we'd like to say a huge thank you to everybody who is supporting us on Patreon. And Patreon is our program that costs around $1 per month. And for joining that, you get instant access to the transcriptions of this podcast, together with our eternal thanks for helping us to continue making this podcast. Go to patreon.com/inglespodcast. There's a link in the show notes. Before we go, we'd like to say thank you to two supporters who have joined recently. Who are they, Reza?
Our two new Patreon sponsors are Victor and Roberto Ruiz. A big thank you to you and all our sponsors.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Reza, shall we let the cat out of the bag and tell people what's on next week's podcast?
Oh, go on. What have we got in store?
Next week, we're going to be speaking about work-life balance. So if, like us, you're having problems balancing your work life and your social life and your personal life, it might be an idea to join us next week. And hopefully we'll be able to help you with that and improve your English. Until then, thanks for listening this week. Have a wonderful week. It's goodbye from Reza.
And it's bye-bye from Craig.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends so that more people can listen. And we'd like to say that the music this week was by Hits, and the track is called See You Later.